Let's just keep it a buck. All right.
And we're back with another episode of Keep It a Buck podcast, episode 79. It's your boy Coop. You can follow me at Coop_1988. And as you can see, we have a special guest, but I'm going to let Mr. Keeks run down the resume.
It's your boy Keeks. You can follow me at GSFK860. That's the Game Speed page. That's free training for the kids in the community, so make sure you follow. We are here today with a super special guest, a mentor of mine, a great friend of mine as I've gotten older, and one of my former coaches, Coach Roman. He is here today to talk about his kids because we are a sports education podcast, and he had two kids that went to Yale and another kid that went to Fordham, all graduated with degrees, obviously. And he's also, you were a state championship in high school, right? When you state champion in high school, went on to play college football at Central, and he's a state championship as a coach. He's a state champion as a coach as well, and he has a very long resume when it comes to winning. So, and helping build the program that we all came up in and that I came through. So, Coach, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you for coming on today.
Definitely appreciate
To start, or do you want to say anything? Shout out anybody if you want.
I just want to say thanks for having me.
Yes.
I appreciate it because you can invite anybody you want, and I thank you for thinking of me.
Always, Coach. Again, you are one of the people that I look to if I ever need something, and you created a group chat, and you always have that same group chat and have had it for a very long time, and you always throw job opportunities, you call in to check in on people, and you also, if there's anything going on with family or anybody's family, you make sure that everybody knows and that everybody knows to reach out to that person and to show that person love in their time of need. So it's appreciated, and you keep a lot of us grounded and you keep a lot of us connected, especially the ones who don't have family much. I know I have great parents and I come from great parents and I appreciate them very much, but I know that you help a lot of people and a lot of young men that don't have much family to come from.
Well, this guy trying to get me in my feelings. Yeah, I mean, football, as we were talking earlier, is such a demanding sport nowadays. It's not like before where you show up in August, you play the season, and you leave after Thanksgiving or a state championship game. Now it's much more structured. So as I was saying, when I was coaching, January 2nd, we start weightlifting, and we're working out all the way through the school year. Then you go to camp somewhere, and, you want to see what – and for me, that was really my favorite time. That was my favorite time of year, was going to camp in June, because you get to see what these kids have become.
Mm-hmm.
You got them in the weight room, and they played maybe their freshman or sophomore year, but all of a sudden, like, they're ready. Like this guy, he shows up. I'll never forget at passing league, like, Coach, what I got to do to start? And my thing was, show me you can do it. And, he wasn't a big guy, but as fierce as you're going to find and competitive as you're going to find. And guess what? He started. So it's that kind of thing, just to see when guys mature and they're ready to go. So that was great. And then after that, you're hoping to play all the way until the state championship game, and I was fortunate. I coached with some head coaches who taught me different things. Like, Jack Corcoran taught me you can outwork everybody else. You just got to be willing to put in the time and do what you got to do. Coach Larson taught me that you can trust your assistants to do their job. Coach Brackett taught me you can be a gentleman in this game, because a lot of times everybody's cussing and fussing, yelling and screaming, but you can be a gentleman and still be successful. And Coach Miranda taught me that, there's parts of this game that you can really focus in on using more technology than I would really use myself. But those little things, so you take something from everybody, and there were some things that you wouldn't do that they did, but it helped me understand the one thing that was most important to me was you guys. I'm probably more of an assistant coach than a head coach, because I like having that ability to have that more intimate relationship, like with the defense, like, and all that stuff. But it just was great for me. And as you said, I bring that all up about all you have to do in coaching, because how am I going to ask you to do all those things, and then when you're done after 4 years, I don't know you no more. And and there are coaches out there that are like that, and I don't want to be that guy. I can't tell a kid I love him for 4 years when he's playing for me, and then I don't know you no more. Right. And so I was fortunate enough to play football, and it changed my life. I never played football until I was playing into a game. I never saw a football game until I was playing in it as a freshman in high school. Never played youth ball. So all of a sudden it was like, wow.
That's interesting. You never played youth ball and ended up earning a Division I scholarship?
Well, when I played, it was Division II at Central.
Central,
yeah.
Okay.
But but I did. And and it was just one of those deals.
A scholarship.
No.
You're getting paid to
I
go
like
to
the
school.
correction,
Right,
but
right.
I don't think there's nothing to say it's nothing.
No, I understand, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
that's big.
for me, I'm from a working poor family. My dad was a painter in the union, with a third grade education. My mom was cleaning houses. So I know what it's like to be like, yo, turn those lights off. Maybe not turn the heat up too high. Things break down. If something breaks, you're hurt. Stuff
You're
like that.
going to have to go without.
Yeah. So when I was able to I remember I got my first recruiting letter from Hobart. I'll never forget that. And it was like, somebody wants me. Cause I never
That's
thought about
upstate
going to
New
college.
York. That's where my family from. Upstate New York. That's
Yeah.
that's by Geneva or in Geneva. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
crazy.
Yeah.
Hobart's in Geneva. That's where my family's from. That's where my mom's from.
Cool. So I didn't think about ever going to college in my life. My mom and dad said, don't do drugs, don't get arrested, get a job, play by the rules, And so that's what I was looking to do. And I ended up getting that first letter, and I was like, oh, wow. And then we had a ridiculous – my freshman year, we were 0-7-1. And that class becomes the first state championship class at New London High School. We were 11-0 state champs. And as I said –
So you was a part of the first stage?
Yeah.
Coach, I never knew that.
Oh, all right.
I never
History
knew
here,
that.
people. Y'all, I hope y'all listen.
First state
History, there you
championship.
go. I like it, man. So
Yeah.
because I always hear it as a historic, pedigree to New London. So to have you here as the first football one, it's great to hear.
And again, I'm not saying, we were the first great team and all that stuff.
No.
We were
first
the
state, but
the state champ, right?
gotcha.
They didn't have the tournament, all the time that we knew in the history, obviously. But yeah, we were able to do it. We did something special. I was talking to you earlier about I didn't really understand what we were doing defensively because you're a kid and you're just playing. And now that I can look at those numbers through a coach's eyes, what we did defensively was out of control. Like I said, to have 286 rushes against our defense and give up 376 yards. That's ridiculous. We gave up less than 1,000 yards in 10 games total. So it was unbelievable. It was great stuff. And I'm still close with those guys, But I will say this, man. Like I tell you about, staying together and just trying to keep all you guys in the loop because guys start going. We've lost a lot of teammates. I lost a lot of classmates. But, that love is still there, and the love I have for you guys. It's just incredible stuff, and it's great. Like you see the guy somewhere, you're yelling to him, "Oh, what's up?" We always get pumped up. I see him, I see Dom at the school. It's just something special. And I always tell you, I love you.
Always.
I love you because, I do. And because I think it's important that these guys hear that. They know people love them.
And Bryce brung up your name too. He said, "I love that man right there." He brung up your name and said, "He's a great dude." Make you want to run through a wall for him and everything else. So
Because he'll run through it for you.
That's what I
once we
was going
told
to say.
him, I said we were about to interview. He was like, "Yo, that's that guy right there."
Yeah.
So I think that's
cool, man. So
I think that's a perfect segue to one of my first questions because you talked about you coming from a very modest family and your dad being a painter. How did you lay the groundwork for having two kids go to Yale and get degrees and having another kid go to Fordham and get a degree? All very prestigious colleges.
Well, first and foremost, I know people don't like to hear this nowadays, but America is a great place that you can go out and do that. My father does not read or write English, and his grandchildren went to Yale and Fordham. You know, that's just 2 generations. You know, I tell a story and people think it's crazy. Well, it is kind of crazy story, but my father was just so happy and so proud to have 2 grandsons at Yale, but my dad's from Puerto Rico. So the Y's don't come right. So he was bragging about having two grandchildren in jail. He go, my oldest grandson, he been in jail 3 years. My youngest grandson, he been in jail 1 year. And I'm like, oh Lord, I had to buy him the Yale grandparent hat so that people understand that he's not saying jail, he's saying Yale. But and the biggest thing about that is, first of all, I can't give any more credit than I can't give enough credit, rather, to my wife. School teacher, who stayed home with our kids for 8 years. So while our kids are in those formative years, they're home with a school teacher, and she did great stuff. Great stuff for them. I remember coming home when Hunter was 2 years old, and she said, read that book to Daddy. And I was like, he can't read, he's 2 years old. Yeah. He read the whole book to me. Stuff like that.
So what was your vision for your kids when growing, like, as far as that process going? Because all you want is the best for your kids, because I'm just starting out as father. I'm in my early life as trying to see where his life goes.
Right.
How do you envision that in the process of that for the people?
That is a great question. And when I give you this answer, people are going to think it's crazy, part of it. People are going to think it's nuts. But first thing was this. I went to a free agent camp when I got done playing at Central, right? Mm-hmm. So I get there. I was 6 foot tall in our program for 4 years at Central. I get to free agent camp. I'm 5'11" ¾ I mean, they went through my box. I used to have a box. Through the box right to the scalp. It was like, you're shorter, you're this, you're that. I ran a slow 40 time, but I balled out. Mm-hmm. I hate saying that because it sounds like but I played really well. And but I learned there. You can't coach height, you can't coach speed.
Yes.
So I said, I won't be marrying anyone under 5'9". And I come back and I see my wife, and I thought she was the most beautiful thing I ever saw in my life, and she was looking me in the eye. So right there, we got to work with this, So I walked up to her and I said, you're going to be great breeding material. Took her 2 weeks to talk to me again, but but it worked out. And
let's work something out, I guess.
So that was part of it. But this was all, early on in my life. This is me seeing this beautiful, tall girl. But then, we got married, and about a year into our marriage, we got saved, and it came down to, I said, how are we going to raise kids one day if we can't agree on how to make a bed? Because we were arguing about how to make a bed. Well, I was arguing about how to make a bed. And I just knew, I said, we got to be able to have, I said, if I say something, you say something, we can't have that. Mm-hmm. And so I said, we need to find a good church, and we ended up finding a non-denominational church out in North Stonington, and we've been going there ever since. So back to your thing about the kids, I remember saying, I believe the word of God to be true, and I'm going to raise my kids in it. And I said, I'm going to treat this like a science experiment. I'm going to find out 17 years down the road how it works. And it worked pretty well. And my wife, being a teacher, staying home for 8 years, it was hard because, as I told you, how I grew up with no money and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I told my wife every day for the first 6 months of her pregnancy, don't think you're not going back to work. And then I had a sex offender. I was a probation officer. I had a sex offender that I had to do a lie detector test. I didn't do it, but I was there. He was one of my guys. And when we found out what he was doing when he wasn't around and what he was doing to a young relative of his own, I came home that night and I was like, yo, you're not going back to work. She looked at me like, what? I'm like, until our kids can tell me everything, you're not going back to work. And that turned into 8 years. But as I said, during that 8-year period of time, having this school teacher at home with the kids, they learned so much that when they got to school, they were flying.
Mm-hmm. That's
Big.
So that was kind of the blueprint. Just trusting, getting the tall wife, who was also an athlete. She played volleyball and softball in high school, and in the Word of God, just trusting that this is what it says is what I'm going to do.
You have very confident kids. I know well, they're not kids; they're all adults now. Yeah. But all of your children are very confident. How did you instill confidence in them growing up?
I think a lot of it was when Hunter turned 2, I started reading to him every night from Scripture. So he was hearing it. And by the time all 3 of them were there, so Hunter would have been, like, let's say when Hunter was like 6, Major was 4, Spencer was 2, so they all could understand. I went through the book of Proverbs with them 3 different times. The wise man does this, the foolish man does that. Just simple stuff, if then, logic and language stuff. And so I'm like, all right, guys, like I said earlier about people, you can do whatever you want to do, but you're going to get the results based on your decision. And I think that's one of the things that helped our kids, because they were like, okay, I can feel confident that I know this is a good decision based on what I've learned from Scripture. And and again, my kids aren't perfect. I'm sure they've done more than I'll ever know, like every other kid, in the world.
Every kid.
But the thing is this, they've made good decisions that's got them in good places right now, and I pray they stay in those good places. But that was definitely it, I think. And plus, Hunter was a great role model. Hunter just did things the right way. Major, he got in that lane and he said, okay, this is working for my brother. And then Spencer is so damn competitive that she's like, I'm not going to let these guys beat me. If they're getting good grades, I'm going to get good grades, And she worked so hard. I mean, because her season, unlike football where you play once a week, she's playing 3 times a week. She would play, come home, do homework till 1 o'clock in the morning, get up, go to school. And, the big game when the girls beat Stanford, that last second shot that Rosie hit, Spencer was covering their player who was on fire. And so the girl comes down and she has her back to Spence and she turns and comes back this way. Spencer steals the ball. We get the ball, call timeout, and then we win the game later on. So as a dad, I'm so pumped up, I'm like, Spence, what a great play, blah, blah. She goes, yeah, that's her move. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I've been watching her on film. Because she's watching Daddy watch film all the time in football, watching her brothers watch film. She started watching. She would just look up highlights and watch games. Like I told you, she's just so daggone competitive. She's like, yo, that's her move. I knew she was going to come back.
And that's the crazy part about parenting, too. It's just that you do not know what your kids is going to pick up on by your moves.
Right.
And, I don't know if you taught her that, but if she's just going about that herself, she's watching.
Yeah.
She's watching a hell of a lot of stuff that you're doing on that part.
And that's just her. It's, it's just great. It's like, wow, she's doing that. And that's who she is. That's how she is still to this day. She is at her job. She works for Northwestern Mutual. What can I do to be in a leadership role? But that's exactly what she said to her basketball coach as a freshman. She goes, what I got to do to start? Coach is like, you're a freshman, you're dressed in varsity, that's not enough? What I got to do to start? And she ended up starting.
And she ended up starting.
Yeah, she did.
And just like I told, me and Coach Roman was talking about this a little bit earlier, but she was the aggression for that team. And, like, I don't want – and, like, the emotional heart of that team. That's what I want to say. She was, like, the emotional heart of that team to – be that aggressive person on defense, but also bring that energy. If somebody's getting a bucket, she's there screaming right after and hyping everybody up. If you do well, she does well. She's not sitting here focused on just her or herself. She wants the team to win. And honestly, she wants it more for you than she wants it for herself. And I feel like that's because she comes from a good family. She knows that she's going back to a good situation and loving family. So she just is able to be able to pour out into other people, and that's what she did on the basketball court. I talked to her after games and stuff and just talked to her about like a few things of like what she should do, but it was always passion no matter what on the basketball court. She was so passionate. How tall are your sons? 6'6",
Major 6'5".
So you got a 6'5" and you have a 6'5" son and a 6'6" son, and this is no disrespect to them, but in my opinion, your most fiercest competitor is the daughter.
Yeah, she
and
was an
and it's
animal.
again, there's no disrespect to them, but it's just like how much of a fierce competitor Spence has always been. Honestly,
It's funny because I know every time I would talk about my daughter, the people that don't know her, I would be like, she's an animal. And I know people would be like, and then you see her, and she's beautiful, and it's like, but they don't know, like,
that aggression,
all dressed
man.
up, but man, she will go for your throat, if you're competing. She just goes after it. That's how she does things.
So as a freshman, just to like put it into perspective a little bit, as a freshman, she was setting multiple screens that are putting people on the floor. Literally. So she's standing still, people are running and they're dropping to the floor, flailing, hitting their heads on the floor after as if they genuinely just ran into an immovable object. So that was just her as a freshman. So imagine her 3 years after. But next, let's get into this Thanksgiving Day game. Can you give us a little bit of
Can I
history?
get one question?
Oh yeah,
Just
you
one,
good.
one, just
You
one.
good?
I just
Yeah.
want. I just want one. As a first time, assistant coach, head coach, and everything else, and you're starting to build the program. What are you looking for in the foundation of building a legacy of a team? Because I'm pretty sure when you get into this game, you there for the long run. You're not there for 2 to 3 years. You're thinking about building a legacy amongst your coaching skills and things like that.
I would say this: the word legacy never ever crossed my mind, because, and I know, and people use the word legacy a lot. I didn't hear it much when you're growing up, but like it's
Okay.
a big thing now. Because I think legacy is more about me, and it was never about me. I remember sitting across from Jack in a diner when he was trying to convince me to coach, because I knew it was going to be a lot of time and stuff. And he said to me, these kids need us. These kids need us. And I'm like, all right, So I bought in. I told my wife, hey, and I said to her, he wants me to coach. And she said, you should do it. And I said to her, you have no idea what you're saying, because I knew it was going to be crazy hours and all that stuff. And but she said, and I'm not going to say the kid's name, but there was a former great athlete in New London who I saw in lockup when I was working as a probation officer. And he didn't even know where he was when he woke up. He was so out of it. And she said to me, you can't have guys like that. You got to go out there and make a difference. And I was like, okay. And so I went and I did it. And then at the end of the season, she's complaining about feeling like a single parent. But I was like, I tried to tell you, But yeah, so that was this thing. So the legacy part of it, this is my legacy. Those guys are my legacy, man.
I hear that, Coach.
Those guys are my legacy, just seeing them, loving them up, letting them know how I feel about them. That's it. I mean, because what else is there? I mean, and I would tell them, I said, look, I already have a house. I already have a car. I'm married. I got kids. I have what I need. I want you guys to get what you need. People don't, realize the number one recruit at WPI was this man right here. People don't realize that,
He don't like to discuss it too much on the podcast. I try to get him to talk about it. He don't like talking about himself too much.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we played in a state playoff game, and kid came in, the leading receiver in the state, didn't catch a pass. One ball touched his hands, it was gone. But that's the kind, I get goosebumps thinking about it, but that's the kind of stuff that I remember. Yeah, it's always nice to win versus losing, but that's what I remember. I remember him coming to me at Ledger 7-on-7. What I got to do to start coaching? Okay, well, this is what you got to do. Let's go. We played man the whole day. And you say you want to do it, go do it, Stuff like that. I mean, just going out there, running around, being – and we're New London. New London's different. Mm-hmm. Like we put in the whole defense for the state championship game against Hill House, and literally I put in a new defense the day before the game. And these guys are so football smart, and they trusted me enough that we were able to go in and out of the defense we started with and that defense. And the other thing we did, all hands on deck. Every varsity lineman, whether you didn't play defense or not, all year, every 3 plays.
Switching in out.
Because I put the film in of Hill House. Their linemen were so big, I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, how are we going to stand in front of these guys? And they beat Berlin, who was number 1 at the time, beat them to death. So I said, we're going to go every 3 plays. Give me all you have for 3 plays. And we did that, and it ended up being a 7-0 game. But that's why I get emotional when I see like pro football games where I see guys like when the Giants beat this undefeated Patriots. I'm like, yo, that took such an incredible effort for everybody to come together. It moves you, yeah. You know, but as I said, so I just don't even think about per se my legacy. My legacy will be that when I'm gone, these guys can be like, yo, Coach Roman was a good dude. We love him. And they want to do stuff for other kids. Like I want to do for them. Now these guys want to do, And I see that. I see these guys out here. They're coaching. They're working in the schools. They're doing some stuff. Everybody's, not everybody is doing what you want them to do at the time. But I know they're all concerned. I know they all care. I know they all want. And that's important, And that's why I try to stay in touch with them.
It's major. And before we get into that, I thought about something else. I know I just talked about Spencer, but you do have two sons that are some of the most kindest people, but also the very fierce competitors. I feel like as males growing up, and especially as young black men, we are not usually seen in the light as like kind and competitive at the same time.
Right.
And your kids do that to a T. So they're kind when they need to be, but they're fierce competitors at the same time. How do you build kind competitors?
But again, I take no credit. I can't take credit. I just trusted the good Lord. And I mean, that's the thing. I love like in Scripture where it says, be courageous. Things like that. Go out and do these things. Yes, you can want to rip someone's head off on the field, but you don't need to rip their head off the field. And I ran into a guy that I went to school with, at Central, and he's now, I don't know if he still is or not, but he was the head basketball coach at Griswold. And Mage turned around, boom, and hit his son in the chest with an elbow. But he didn't mean to do it. And his son said he apologized to me 3 times. But then he dunked on him 4 times. It's like, hey, I'm sorry I did that, but take this, And those are the things. I mean, Hunter, you put him in a tilt technique and say, go through that guy's face mask. And he would do it. And then he gets off and he's talking about, all these different things in life. As I said, now he wants to do a podcast from 4 different locations, 3 months at a time. He wants to 3 months in Puerto Rico, 3 months in Brazil, 3 months in South Africa, 3 months in Vietnam. Because he's a history major. That's what he majored in at Yale. But he's working for Cisco Technology. He's in sales. And he's been doing great, obviously, that he can afford to take a year off. But that's his passion. Like, he wants to do something. And he said to me, like, because I'm dad. I'm like, you're making a whole lot of money, son. You sure you want to do this? And he's like, Dad, if I don't do this, then I can't say I ever tried to make a difference. So what are you gonna say to that?
Sound like you.
Yeah, and then and with Mage, he was close. He was close. He blew out his Achilles tendon and his calf at the XFL Super Combine in Texas. He's got a picture of him in the Rock, and then he blows out his Achilles. So the Steelers and the Giants were the last 2 teams that were interested in him. They said go play in the XFL and get some more film, and then he gets hurt there. But I mean, his pro day numbers were off the charts, and so as a dad, again, you're like, this is gonna happen, and then it didn't happen. And this is the one thing I will say: his injury is proof positive why you need to have an education, because even though his dream was to play in the NFL, when he blew out his Achilles and he tore his calf, okay, I got to pivot. And he wanted no help. I know he was hurting emotionally. He was hurt, but he didn't want any hookup from me or to talk to anybody. He just got on the phone, got with the Yale network, and he got himself a job with Merrill Lynch. He's a financial advisor in Washington. He lives in Maryland, but he works in Washington.
It's another financial advisor.
Yeah, so, but again, that's why. These kids need to understand, hey, man. And Hunter said something that was really incredible. He said to me, he goes, Dad, it's not, people want me to go up and say, oh, you just do what I did. He goes, well, I can't tell them to be 6'6". I can't tell them to have two parents who allowed me to never have to work so that I could pursue sports and lift weights and do all those things that it takes to get to where I want to get. He says, I can't tell them that if they don't have that. And I listened to that and I was like, wow, that's a good point. But you can always go get an education. You can always have your best education. So you might not be 6'6" and go to Yale, but you might be 5'10" and go to Trinity. Still a little Ivy school. You play there. You do what you got to do. Just make yourself as attractive as possible with your grades. I mean, Hunter got a recruiting letter from like the College of Puget Sound. I'm like, what is that? I never heard of this school. But he had straight A's. So who's not going to recruit you? Yeah, who's not going to recruit you? You know, so it was one of those deals that if you get the grades, it helps so much because even if you go pro, you're not going to be pro forever. So to be able to, and they show like a lot of NFL players, they say within 3 years after they get done playing, they're broke.
Not for long.
Yeah.
NFL stands for not for long.
Whereas, you know, you might not make the millions of dollars right away that some of these athletes are making, but you're going to do all right. You know, you can do all right if you use your education.
One more. Sorry. Before we get to the NFA game, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No problem.
But it's about the kids' education because I feel like we graze over the fact that you had all three of your kids go through all New London systems and go to these prestigious colleges. We talk about the education system in New London and how it's not up to par. How did your kids get from New London schools to an Ivy League school and an Ivy League school and another very prestigious college?
First, it started with me being cheap. Straight up. You know, I said, I'm paying taxes that go to education in this town. I'm not going to pay for my kids to go to private school. You know, so that right there, I'm like, no. You're going to go to New London school system, and they did. And by third grade, Hunter's third grade teacher, I want to say Miss Ballantyne was her name. She's passed away since. But in third grade, she said, that kid's an Ivy League student. I'm saying, can he go to Miami? You know, that's what I'm thinking, you know? I'm like, that's what I wanted. But, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, it comes true. I remember when he was 12 years old, Coach Major said to him, the worst you could do is go to Yale. When he was 12, because, you know, he just was different. And then they did that. But, so the school system itself, there's two ways of looking at it. People will say you can't get an education at New London, da, 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 da. But if you go to school and you do what you have to do and you get an education, you're going to get a leg up because schools like Yale are going to go, oh, you're going to a quote-unquote inner city school, going to an urban school. So that's the kid we want to give a shot to because they're always looking to give kids an opportunity. You know, I know people will say DEI or whatever it is, but it's just one of them deals where it's like, hey, here's a kid. Because one of the things that we learned when Hunter first went to Yale is that they're looking for other things. Everybody has straight A's. But, you know, like one kid plays 5 instruments. Another kid speaks 4 languages. Hunter played football. But they all had and they called it distinctions. What's your distinction? You know, Hunter's was, I'm a 6'6" defensive end that runs pretty well. You know? And that was his distinction that got him in. There are some people who frown upon that at Yale, or athletes, whatever. But, you know, every time they win the Ivy League championship, they're all in the picture. You know, they all want to get in the picture. And, you know, and that was great. Hunter and Major both got to experience that. They both won rings there. Major won 2. But that's the thing that I think is just wherever you are, like Hunter said about going to these different locations, immerse yourself in it. You're in New London, immerse yourself in it. You know, I think of all the kids, once I started coaching at New London, they were a magnet school, and to see all the kids that come from other towns, and they get here, and they're like, man, this is nothing like I thought it was. You know, Chris Ewing, Grant Pezzalezzi, you know, guys like that, Richie Vitale, guys that come in and it's like, yo, this is nothing like we hear about New London being this and being that. You know, Chris Ewing's grandmother, Nancy, she loves Pop. She loves Nick.
Pop, Nick,
yeah,
all
you know,
them.
she loves him. She still talks about him to this day. You know, it's just one of those deals where it's give it a chance. But the thing is, everyone's got to do their part. Administrators have to do a good job. Teachers have to do a good job. Kids got to do a good job. Because in the end, the only people, as I said about myself earlier, that can lose anything are the kids. Administrators and teachers have their careers.
Yep.
They're making their money.
Going home at the end of the day, being able to,
What do you have, kid? If you don't get what you're supposed to get here, what do you have? And, and that's the big thing. And so for our kids, I never sat around like, you better do this, you better do that. They just did it. They got the grades. All of a sudden it's like, oh, they're pretty smart, I guess, but I never said you have to get A's. And, with Mage, he started getting the A's, and then Spencer, she wasn't not going to get them. Because Spencer was just like, there's no way. This is Spencer Roman. In our house, we have stairs to go up like this from the first floor to the second floor. Every single day, when I said time for showers, Spencer would go over here and say, I'll race you on 3. 1, 2. And she was going, and the boys never figured out why she always won. She was not going to lose to them. So now we go into a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher tells us how Spencer is a great student. She's always second in line. And I was like, my daughter's always second? Yeah, she knows the first person has to hold the door. So that's how competitive she is. Like, I'm gonna let you be first, so you can hold the door. So then
I can go really be
yeah,
first.
I'll be first. So but
Oh man,
that's it.
Yeah, saying that the teachers and the administration, we all got to be in line. I had one of the most satisfying things that happened to me. I'm not going to say the kid's name,
Right.
but it's a kid that went to one of the elementary schools in New London. He had a bad rep, horrible rep, fighter, couldn't stay in class and things of that sort. I worked with him last year. Me and him did have a little thing where we had to get through, and it was a little rough spot, but then we was able to see the other half of it. And then this year, my man got student of the month.
That's great.
In a straight A student.
Yeah, and you know what?
Straight A student. So I was
Straight A's is big.
It can be done.
Because it can be
Yeah,
done.
one other thing I said, I said the administrators and the teachers have to be on point, and the kids and the parents
Yes.
have to be on point.
Yes.
Yes. I mean,
yes. Be accountable and be present.
and
That's what I have to be accountable and be
but not
present.
only that, but we are putting expectations on parents that sometimes they can't reach. And this is what I mean by that. We're going to say, and I learned this because I never heard of such a thing. When Hunter was in kindergarten, I had a crazy case where this guy held up a family, was holding a gun to a newborn baby's head. It was crazy. And he was a black guy. The family was white. So there was a lot of animosity. It was a lot going on. And it was the end of the year. I finished this. It's called the PSI. It's basically a book report on your life.
Yes.
When you get sentenced. So I do this PSI, and I'm like, I'm burnt out. So I took the last 2 weeks of the year off. So my first day off, Carrie goes, go volunteer at Hunter School. What do you mean volunteer at Hunter School? I never heard of such a thing, right? So I go there, Nathan Hale, and I walk in, these kindergartners, 5 years old, and I'm sitting on the ground, and some little girl comes to sit on my lap, and I'm like, oh, no, go over there. Hunter, he's sitting there. Hi, Dad, but that's it. So I'm there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I got up, and I walked to the main office, and I said, excuse me, what do you know about me that you let me go into a room with a bunch of 5-year-olds? I said, maybe I'm a sex offender, dude. So they're all freaking out. And, just that kind of stuff showed me that these people think just because you're a parent, you got it all together. And I remember the first day of school, I saw a guy who was a sex offender, and I'm like, And I saw another guy who I went to school with, and he was off the chain his whole life. But now because he's a parent, he should come volunteering at school. So unfortunately, and it's going to sound terrible to say this, but sometimes the parents can't do. But what they can do is at least support. They can at least say, hey, you can't behave this way. Yeah. You can't swear at a teacher. You might not be able to do the homework with them. My dad could never help me with my homework. Mm-hmm. But I knew I needed to behave properly.
But that's why I say be present and be accountable, because at the very least, you can be present.
Right.
When we call and say, this is going on. You can't be accountable to saying, okay, we're going to address this. How can we work together? That's why I say those two things. I feel like those are the bare minimum that,
And also,
at the very least,
I
can
can't
happen.
I can't do this work that I didn't grow up doing this work, or I didn't do well in school. Can my kid get some extra support there because I don't know how to do this work that the kid's bringing home?
Right.
Well, I'm the math teacher.
Yeah.
Let's get one thing straight. I'm a math teacher and have been for a few years now in New London. Dog, the way that they teach some of these topics and some of these things, it is not the easiest. I guarantee you there's teachers in New London schools, and honestly teachers in other schools too, that are not math teachers that would struggle in math in these schools.
And I'm great at math, and when kids come to me and I try to teach them the way I learned,
Right.
and they were like, nah, that's got to be wrong. And no, it's this way. I say, you go to your teacher, man. I'm not the teacher at this point. Because that's the only way I know how to teach.
I'll be having to read it a few times
right.
sometimes.
So, yeah, I can understand that. But I definitely, I mean, that's why I always kind of say, like, be present, be accountable, because I feel like that's the least we can do.
And you know what's funny is I said earlier about my wife and I knew we had to be on the same page to raise kids. Schools and parents really should be on the same page to raise kids.
Yes.
Talk about that.
I mean, the
see
bottom
this
line
all
is
the
this. I remember when I first started working at New London, I was with safety team. And a mom came up, and she was losing her mind. And I said to her, hey, your daughter's watching you. You've got to calm down. And she's like, she knows how I am. So I can't be surprised when her daughter is going to act that way. You know, and it's tough. But again, in the end, if that's what that is, administrators and teachers still got to do what they got to do.
No matter what.
You can't, I just, all right.
But
again,
how do you do what you're supposed to do in those moments when a teacher has to teach? You know, a teacher's not there to cure a behavior. You know,
no,
things of that sort is like.
Teaching is the second most miserable profession I know behind coaching. And I'm going to tell you why. The difference is this. Teachers, if a kid doesn't reach a certain grade level, doesn't make certain things with these standardized tests, they're critiqued, they're criticized.
Yes.
The only reason why I say coaches are worse is because everybody's watching them. And,
okay.
and everybody's saying,
right.
you don't know what you're doing. Because you watched SportsCenter last night, you know what I'm doing. But it's the only difference. And you know what? And law enforcement's right there nowadays too. Because, yes, I worked in law enforcement as a probation officer, and there are people who were knuckleheads. But you know what? There are people who are knuckleheads everywhere. That's why whenever I see these things, not to jump, no, totally different topic, but like when they say we need reform in this area, we need reform in that area. No one taught anyone to do that. When they do something wrong, they're doing something wrong. No one taught them to do that wrong. They always tell them how to do it the right way. If you go off the reservation, that's on you, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a coach. If you go off the reservation, that's on you. But they want sweeping reform for everything, and that's crazy. But, back to this thing. Obviously, anyone who knows me knows, and these guys know, I send them my Bible studies, because my thing is, I think it's the most important thing in the world. And again, if I say I love you and I don't share that with you, then I don't really love you. Yeah. And I was scared. I didn't, because these guys are younger. Now they're getting older. So now they can see, oh, wow, people do pass away. Oh, wow, these things are important in life. When they're coming out of high school, and I gave every one of them that graduated that book, The Stranger on the Road to Emmaus. I don't know if they ever read them, but I know I gave it to them. I know, I'm saying, here you go, But anyways, so the biblical part, if you're going to be around me, you're going to get that. And that's why I tell you this, because you reap what you sow. And what we're seeing is that's a biblical truth. If you do certain things, you're going to get certain consequences. What we've done, and this huge word all the time is being talked about now, accountability. We don't let people reap what they sow anymore. And unfortunately, even with kids. Now, what does that mean? Oh, so a kid might have to have in-school suspension. A kid might have to have out-of-school suspension. A kid might have to be expelled. You know what? If that's what they have earned with their behavior, the same way they might have earned first honors, how they might have earned a scholarship. They've earned it. You're reaping what you sow. But
That's a great line right there.
we are cutting that off. We won't let you reap what you sow, because you know what's going to happen. You're going to learn from that. When you get
Life's going to teach you it at some point.
But so if you have that negative outcome, you're going to go, I don't like that. I don't want to do that anymore. But if you do it and we don't let you have that negative outcome, because your frontal lobe hasn't formed yet.
We enabling.
And don't be surprised when they do it again and again and again. My kids will all tell you, man, spankings are spankings. You know? But again, for the folks out there who go, oh, never smack my kids in the face. We had a spanking spoon, spanked them on the butt. They knew what you were getting a spanking for. Lying, biting, things like you can't do those things. You do those things, you're going to get a spanking.
I knew what I was getting with before.
But my thing is, but people hear that, go, oh, if you love, well, you know what the book says? Everyone knows that one. But the one that really moves me is it says, if you don't discipline your child, you hate your child. I was like, wow. Book of Proverbs again. If you don't discipline your child, you hate. See, people think it's just the opposite. If you love them, then you, oh, no. No, I love you so much. I'm not going to let, because it was great. My pastor, who's since passed away, Jay Chappell, once said, they're going to learn. You can learn from the crib bars or you can learn from the jail bars. Which one you want to learn from? And, you know, and that's the thing. And so for me, by the time our kids got in their, teen years, they don't get spankings anymore. They know what's up. And plus, the last time Hunter was the last one I spanked in high school, per se. And he did something, and I didn't want to embarrass him in front of his friends, but I said, come on, upstairs. We went upstairs. I said, turn around, and I got the spanking spoon, and I popped the one on his butt, and he went, I was like, whoa, okay, I guess we're done with that. He snorted like a bull. So I said, okay, spanking ain't doing that for him anymore. So now it's like the keys to the cars, whatever. You ain't, you can't go out here or whatever it is. But they're always, and I told my kids, this was during COVID. They were all home, and we had so much going on in this world. And people were angry. It was just nuts. But I said to my kids, when you were little, I gave you directions. I gave you instructions. Now that you're adults, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you my advice. But I'm never going to not give it to you. You might not take it.
Yeah.
But it won't be because Daddy didn't tell you. I got it, because you know what? I'm still your dad. If something goes wrong, I got to live with it.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be like, man, I should have. No. I love you. I'm going to tell you. You might. And it's funny because, all of my kids have dated someone that I wasn't crazy about, and they all knew it. It wasn't like, and they all since have broken up. And after they break up, then it's like, oh man, yeah, she was crazy. Was she? No, I never knew that. Was she crazy? I told you that, But again, man, and that's about being parents. Be a parent. You don't got to be their friend. But the thing is, now we are tight. We're cool, I love him, and it's great. And, and Khalid gave me, honestly, one of the greatest compliments, probably maybe the greatest compliment I ever had as a parent. We were at Toby May, and you said to me, I want my kids to be as close as your kids are with each other.
Straight up.
I was like, man.
I promise you, your kids love each other, man. Everything they do, they love each other. And you can tell it from the way Spence loves them, and you can tell it from the way they protect Spencer, and the way those two have a bond, Hunter and Major have a bond together. It's every possible way that they can have a bond, they have one. It's a beautiful thing to see, and I promise you, I want my kids to be growing up the same.
I appreciate it, man. But again, like I said, the word, man. I'm not smart enough to think this all up, but I can read the book. And the thing is, I trusted it. It hasn't failed me. I fail it. I'm not perfect. I make my mistakes. I fly off the handle with anger at times, and it's not good. I get so mad about certain things, but it's things that I can't control. All I can control is me.
Yeah.
Do your job. Just do your job. You can't, it's like a coaching. Just do your job. I can't control what the other person does, but sometimes I let those things get me so angry. And it's like, but in the end, it's nice to know that you're on the winning side.
That's good.
That's it, yeah.
That's some great stuff, man.
Oh, Let's get into this NFA New London
Yeah,
game
yeah.
real quick. A lot of history. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the New London NFA game for football?
I can tell you it from my perspective because, as I told you, I never played youth football. I never saw a football game.
Prior to
I
that.
talked to people, and they're telling me about these games from the 70s and the 60s. The first game I saw was in fall of 1980, and I was playing in it, and didn't know what I was doing. So all of a sudden, you play NFA, and it's wild as this is, we know it's the oldest game in the world, not just in the nation, in the world.
And y'all think I be playing when I say
as
this.
far as football?
Y'all think I be playing when I say
Is it
this.
football
It's the oldest rivalry in the world, and it goes
Okay.
back. If you say
Oldest
first
Y'all think I
high
be
school
playing.
football game, you Google it, NFA and Buckley. But because Buckley became New
Buckley
London.
used to be
Right.
New London.
So, anyways,
The area, yeah,
right.
that's
So, and Tommy Major, as he would always say, the oldest game in the world. He would always scream. So, but when I was in high school, we didn't play them on Thanksgiving. We played Fitch on Thanksgiving. So that took away a little bit of that specialness of it. And then I went off to college, you come back, and I started coaching, and then we're playing them last game of the year. And then you're starting to see, oh, wow, this is the oldest game in the world, and you're seeing articles and
Khalid
stuff.
told me that. I was
Yeah,
like, nah,
yeah. Oh, my
that
daughter,
sounds nuts.
my daughter had to straighten out her college boyfriend. He from Massachusetts. I'm like, yeah, we got the.
You stop it.
Dad, you know what this fool just said? She broke up with him too. But that's what I said. She's like, you know what this fool just said? They got the oldest game. She laughing at the dude in front of his face. I said, tell him to Google it. And there it is.
Oh,
and his school was like third or something, but it wasn't first.
But it ain't
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
It's okay.
But But so anyways, so when I started coaching and starting to see the magnitude of this game and realizing that this game's been around longer than Yale Harvard. Like what? And the crazy part is, not many people can say they played in New London NFA, Yale Harvard. Two Romans can. It's
Ooh,
pretty
yeah, they
wild.
can.
Yeah. But so with that being said, we played in until my senior year, when we were able to go to championship, it was like, okay, we play them, but Fitch is our Thanksgiving Day rivalry. But then when you got older and you realize the history of the game, I mean, it's in the NFL Hall of Fame. This game is, they got something in there, like they keep the scores or track of the scores, something in the NFL Hall of Fame. It's crazy.
What the New
For-
London
for our game.
Yeah, the results. And again, I'm telling you, that's how it's been relayed to me. But they keep track of that because it's the oldest game. So anyways, so now I'm coaching and you're starting to see how big this game is.
Yo,
Told you.
I'm
Nah,
waiting on Khalid.
I flinched at him because I've been
yeah.
trying to tell him.
Yeah.
I've been trying to tell him.
And so you see these games, you see the importance of it, and then you start seeing, like, the older guys coming around. That's what made it great when it went to Thanksgiving, because everybody can come home from college, all the people around, they take that day off. It's not like a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon. It's Thursday morning, they all show up. And that's when it really started to hit me. And the greatest, Coach Major pregame, he says, you going to be number one or you going to be number two? And two, that's just nasty. Yo, now he's being dead serious.
He's always dead
He's being dead
serious.
serious, talking to the team. And I'm like, trying not to laugh. I'm like, two, that's just nasty. I was like, oh my goodness, this man is beautiful.
Yeah,
But,
boy, Mage.
but I will say this: to go there, the bragging rights, still talking about it, and obviously I've been involved in those games as a coach, as a player. I think my junior year we lost. My senior year we won, but then as a coach, to have there have been great games, and it's not because I was a head coach, but it's just because it was such a crazy game. So we're down 18-0 at half. Tommy Major is telling everyone in the stands, "Don't go nowhere. Don't go." Like he did for you guys against Montville.
Against
we got him
Montville.
right where we want him. We got him right where I'm like,
Down
oh.
18-0. That sounds crazy for
Yes.
somebody to say. And we got a
We
coach
got
that's
him
really
right
live.
where we want him, he said. He walked up. This is when I knew Tommy lost his mind. Tommy went up, kissed one of the assistant coaches from NFA on the cheek. We got you right where we want you, baby. He's walking up the field. He's talking to the bands. Don't go nowhere. Keep
That's a
playing. It's
bad
crazy,
move.
right? So we go in, and I'm trying to give him everything. Guys, we're down 18-0 and not playing well. I said, guys, this is New London NFA. I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know this is how you're going to be remembered for the rest of your damn lives. I said, we're going to go out there. We get the kickoff. We're going to score. We're going to go for 2. We're going to score, go for 2, and tie this up. Get the kickoff, fumble. They get the ball. They score. It's 22-0. Ah, man, you got to be kidding me. And we come back and we win that game 24-22, I believe, with 9 seconds left. Jeez. And Gio Lopez maybe had one of the greatest games in London history.
Bro, that's my dog.
Oh,
and he
balled
is
out.
one of the, honestly, I was telling Coach Roman this. Coach Roman was saying that he would love to see Gio and myself compete. I don't think I've ever faced a receiver that is as good or as talented as Gio on the football field. And I faced some guys. I faced guys, just like Coach Roman said, that have come into the season with most yards in the state and all this stuff, and I still don't think I've seen anybody or like faced anybody, not seen, but like have faced anybody on the other side of the ball that has been as talented as Gio. And that's one of the kids I coached, and that's my dog. That's my dog. I've always held his game in a lot of very high respect. That's my dog.
And the thing about it is they were literally carbon copies. Thin, wiry, nasty dispositions on the field. Didn't want to give an inch. That's why I said I would have loved just to see those two go against each other, because it would have been this. They'd been chirping.
We would have been
at
yapping at each other.
Yes, you know. But so Gio played out of his mind. Owen George plays an unbelievable game. That throw he made to Gio, like, that's why they say a perfect throw can't be defended. Safeties come in corners here. He throws right between. I mean, even to watch the highlights now, you're like, are you kidding me? But the thing that took this game to a high level for Gio was he had 2 great defensive plays. He had an interception on the goal line, and he punched the ball out as the kid was going in on the goal line for a touchback, and we got the ball. So that's 14 points he saved on defense and balled out on offense.
That boy, he's a baller.
You know, and Parker, Elijah Parker scored the winning touchdown. But I remember Jalen Callender. Kid couldn't catch a cold in practice all year. Makes a huge catch in this drive. Osiris Vasquez, NFA's got the ball, and he makes a huge tackle on 3rd down as an outside linebacker that has them punt to us. I mean, so many kids stepped up, did such great things. You know, it was unbelievable.
And those are kids that, and Osiris was a kid that used to just play basketball.
Yeah.
Like, he was playing basketball for a while, at least like in his first few years in high school, and went out for the football team later on and making big plays. But that's the family.
Yeah.
That's the family.
And I saw him at his church in New London over there off of Reading, and he came up and see me, give him a hug. And I'm going to tell a story about Osiris. Osiris' junior year, I had to throw him off the team. But this is the difference between kids today, and you know what? I shouldn't even say difference. The difference in how we treat kids today and how we treated them then. I threw him off the team. He had a rule. We had a rule, and he broke that rule. See you later. Done. No discussion. Unlike today where, coach don't like me, blah, blah, blah. He came back the next year, and he makes that tackle in that game because he came back. He's able to walk around knowing how great he is in the history of that game because he was willing to come back and do it. He didn't sulk. He knew the rule. It was a hard, fast rule. I'm not going to change that rule. I changed that rule. I don't have any credibility. And that's what I'm talking about with schools. That's what I'm talking about with families. Hey, man, I love my kids. But when they had to be disciplined, you discipline them. I don't have to discipline them now. And I pray no one else will ever have to discipline them. You know, you just got to do what you're supposed to do. You know, but again, do it the right way. Not, you know, I'm not, like I said, you don't abuse, you know, that stuff. But, and the thing is this, I would tell them, I love you. That's why I have to do this. Because if I don't do this, you're not going to learn from it. You're going to think, oh, well, you know, I tell you, man, being of integrity, you know, that's an important thing. And and if you don't do it, and it's not always easy. When I'm an assistant, I can't maybe make that call. I couldn't make that call as an assistant on a kid who acted like a knucklehead before a state championship game. But I could do that as a head coach. But I tell you, and it was funny because my thing is, how do I use this game? Don't let this game use me.
Yeah.
So every kid that I thought could play at a certain level, when coaches came in, I'd have them in the room. Now, New London's always got athletes. So when a D3 school come in, I can have 13 kids sitting in the room with them. And I remember Osiris said, Coach, I don't want to play college football. I said, oh, okay, no problem. You know, he don't want to play. But until I know that, I'm trying to help you get into school somewhere. And that bothers me when coaches don't do that. They might say that's not my job. I don't have to do that. But the bottom line is this, man. Like I said, I'm asking you to give me too much. I got to give you something back.
And just like we talked about Larson earlier, in the way we appreciated him accepting the culture that you guys had already laid out in New London for football, it's the same thing. Same thing for that. Larson came in and he was just everything that, I don't know, what my fault. What was the last thing you said, Coach?
Well, just about having that integrity and doing what you got to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Larson came in and he just had the integrity. He did what he had to do, and again, he accepted us for who we were as a culture and as a team. And he just always, that's what it was the colleges thing. Larson always brought colleges to us. Yeah. That's what I wanted to say. No matter what it was, Larson had a big thing on making sure, whether it was D3, D2, D1, no matter what, he was bringing colleges in the off season and was always making sure he was trying to land kids into college.
Yeah, and like I said, WPI, that's a great school, unbelievable school. And he's the number one recruiter on their board. You know, that's the thing. He had that option. He can do what he wants with that option. You know, it's not always easy. It's not always affordable for some of our kids. You know, that's why I think there should be two things that are told first day of school in high school. Two things. So I'm telling you folks now. One, seniors, apply for full need schools. Schools that are going to meet your full need. Because it doesn't do you any good to get $40,000 from a college, but it costs $70,000. That's still $30,000. You got to.
Where's the other $30,000 coming from?
And the second thing is, this is what statutory rape is. Because there's always some senior fooling around with some freshman, and depending on what parents say or do, it can cost you your future. People need to know these things. And, of course, I suggest it so they never talk about those things, but I just think those are things that are important. And not saying people aren't going to do it anyways, but it won't be they didn't know.
You can't say you didn't know. You can't say you weren't told.
And that's just one of the things about protecting people. As I said, I was talking to you guys earlier about being a probation officer. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm going to react to it. I've been a defensive player my whole life. You do A, B, C, congratulations, have a nice life. You do X, Y, Z, you got the right to remain silent. It's that simple.
Touche.
Yeah, but as I said, so back to the history of the NFA game, that for me, and I wish it wasn't a game that I was a head coach, because I just want you to appreciate the game for what it was. You know, we had so many twists and turns. Nick Fleetwood comes in the game to start out, put the ball on the ground. Coach Major's losing his mind. Then Nick has to go in and play corner for us at the end of the game to help secure the win. He stepped up for us. Coach Major went from yelling at Nick to kissing Nick's behind. It was unbelievable, you know, and all those things. And like I said, to have Owen do that in that period of time, it just, everything about that game was so special. And man, did it make Thanksgiving something special, you know.
Make eating that food a lot better, man.
Turkey, that might have been the best turkey I ever had, you know. And the kids didn't know at the time, but I knew that was my last game because I was sitting there breaking down film, and I realized I got two kids playing 45 minutes away.
That was going to be my next question too. Why'd you stop coaching? Because I know a lot of people have that question.
Yeah, you know, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wait a minute, and I'll be the first to tell you, I feel poorly for Hunter's career at Yale because I wasn't there all the time because I was still coaching here, and it didn't hit me until Hunter and Major both were there. You know, like when Major was there, okay, your other kid's here, you're coaching him. And it was like, because I never coached my kids. I never coached youth football. So I didn't coach my kids when they were growing up. So when they got to the high school, I was already there. You know, so it was just kind of doing what I do. And then when I, one day I remember I was breaking down film for a team that we were going to kill anyways. And it was like, what am I doing? And they weren't playing at Yale that day. They were playing at Brown, but it's still 45 minutes away. And I'm like, my wife and my daughter are there. I'm not there. My wife is sending me, videos of her falling off the daggone wall at Princeton to run on the field when we upset Princeton. What am I doing? Because you don't get that time back. You don't get it back. I will never get that back, the time that I missed with Hunter. And, so I became a professional tailgater, and it was unbelievable. And, and even that, and I'm not knocking any coach who wants to coach forever. God bless him. It just wasn't for me to do that because I went on my 30th anniversary cruise with my wife this summer. If I was coaching, I'm not going on that.
Mm-hmm. That's summer.
Yeah.
That's summer. That's football.
Yeah, that's getting ready. That's right. Our anniversary is in July, and season starts in August. So it's always something else that can come up, and you don't realize it until you step out of it. Because I told you, I don't know how I did it. How did I work full time, coach full time, and raise kids? And again, as I said, the good Lord helped me with all of that. But especially with the raising the kids part.
I hear that. Coach, what it was your greatest memory playing in the NFA New London football game? I know you've talked about your greatest memory coaching. What was your greatest memory playing?
The greatest memory I have playing, and you would think it would be winning the game, but we lost this game. But the greatest memory I had is that I believe my junior year, Alexis Arguello fought a Livingstone Bramble, I think that was the fight. And it was like a classic fight. You could look up Arguello Bramble. It was unbelievable. Alexis Arguello was hitting this dude with straight rights that would knock a head off a bull. And he kept coming. Found out later on that he was high on cocaine. He had cocaine in his water bottle. But anyways.
That's crazy.
And it was snowing. So we're like, the game's going to get canceled. It was snowing. And me and David Smith, Smitty was at my house, a good friend of mine growing up. I knew him since Little League. And we're watching this fight. And it's like, yeah. And I think everybody just thought the game's going to get canceled. They're going to move it. And again, we weren't playing on Thanksgiving. We were playing on Saturday. NFA didn't move it. They didn't cancel. Yeah, they didn't cancel the game, and we went out there and we were flat and we lost. But I just remember, just like, you got to be kidding me! We're out here in this mess, But NFA's been known for leaving snow on the field. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was our first year coaching, so that'd have been like 2005 season. I think it was. They had this little, machine to take the snow off, and they didn't do it. So we get there. We lose our minds. Jack gets a bunch of shovels delivered, and we're shoveling the field. And then, of course, I think Dom had a ridiculous day that day. I think it was that day. But, just those are the type of things. The snow and NFA games always seem to come together, as a player and as a coach.
You're not trying to get an edge on your opponent. You ain't trying to win.
What do they say? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's right. That's what they say.
I was about to say that.
All I know is somebody always got to do what they got to do to try to beat us. We don't never got to do that shit. I say that. We just try to work hard. We don't never got to do nothing to the field or make sure the field is extra puddles on the field like Fitch our senior year.
10 o'clock morning games.
Trust me,
that's a big one.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, again, we just gonna work, and that's all. And there's nothing wrong with it. But again, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But I think that partly builds up the expectation of playing New London. You're gonna do what you can to be New London, and like we always say, growing up and while we're playing, where everybody else is Super Bowl, where everybody else is state championship. So. And honestly,
and we need to get back to that.
We need to get back to that pedigree. Yeah. We definitely do.
And that's the thing. After we lost to Notre Dame West Haven in the playoffs, my first year as head coach, I just had to tell the truth. And I remember a lot of people afterwards came to me and they were like, wow. Like, matter of fact, one of the Notre Dame coaches came to me afterwards. He read in a paper. He was just like, man, I just want to be like you. Because I said, I can't lie to these kids. You lie to your kids. That's not cool. And I just said, if we want to be what we've been and what our town expects us to be, we have to do all the other things.
It has nothing to do with football.
You have to get in the weight room. You have to have grades because you can't play without the grades. New London has a C rule. Other schools don't have that. They just have a CIAC rule. So appreciate this. At New London, you can have 4 C's and a D, and you can't play because you're under a 2.0.
It's good.
At other schools, you can have 4 D's and an F and play. because you're passing 4 classes. So 4 Ds and an F. So if a kid knows he's struggling academically, he might go to another school because, hey, I'm not going to be held to that standard. Now, it's not helping the kid. Again, we're enabling this kid to continue to not do well. But it's just important to understand that, like, for me, why she did this, I don't know. Rebecca Almonte, who's now on the Board of Education, she's like my second mom. You know, I mean, I love my mother-in-law, so she's like my third mom. But this woman, she volunteered. She's an administrator. She was a cheerleading coach. She was a teacher. And she volunteered to be my academic advisor when I was the head coach. And she would come in and sit down with these kids and go over their grades and then give them cookies. Like, you know, she was just the greatest woman. I love her to death. You know,
Sounds like Miss Fisher.
you know, they kind of, you know, just really want to do all they can for you. And she had no reason to do it. I saw her, and she heard I got the job, and she goes, I want to be your academic advisor. I didn't ask her. She did this. And she'd come in, and she'd meet with these kids and go over it. But these are the kind of things that I fought against the C rule because I knew it might force kids out of our town. And I thought it put us on an uneven, you know, scale of without competition. But the idea of the C rule, I have no problem. Obviously, I love good grades. My kids were straight A students, so I'm all about the grades. But I also know that high school football, because they love saying this, is a privilege, it's not a right. And that's true. But for some kids, high school football is going to be all they play. And you having a rule that makes you look better, it might take away that from a kid. I had a teammate, when I went to his funeral, his high school jersey was on his casket. We won a state championship together. He never played another sport again. I would hate to think someone took that from him because he had 4 C's in a D. Or 5 C's or 4 C's in a D. That shouldn't be the case. But, you know, it's important that we get back to where we are. And as I said, Mike DeMoro wrote the article, but basically I said, if we want to be what we need to be, and this goes back, all this stuff ties together. Hey, parents, you want your kids to be champions. You want your kids to do this. Hey, parents, and don't complain about your kid having to come work out. Hey, parents, don't complain about your kid having to go run 110s. It's 100 degrees, I know, and we're going to run 110s at 10 o'clock in the morning. Sorry.
We'll have water.
You will have water. And the thing is this. That's why Larson, after we came back, we were down to Montville. I don't know how much we were down at halftime.
21.
Down 21. And we come back and we beat them. And literally the next day, our kids are out running 110s,
Lifting
weights, watching film. And Larson's looking at me like, this really does work. This really does work. Yeah, it really does work. You know? And again, you just gotta give yourself to it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like anything else in life, you know. If you're gonna put in the work, it doesn't always work out. We don't always win championships. But you know what? Every kid that did that and went through that, they're like this. That's the other thing. They're like this. You know why? Because Khalid knows Jig did that. He knows Clarkie did that. He knows Cole did that. He knows those guys did that. He knows El Money did that. He knows Steph did that. He knows Kyle did that. So guess what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be the guy that didn't do it. But if your best players don't want to do it, so that's what I say. We want to be great. We want to be on top again. We want people to talk about New London again. We got to get people in there that are going to want to do those things, and we got to get kids and parents. And again, I don't want, you know, parents out of their minds, like, you know, threatening your kids and all that. But yo, just say, hey, why aren't you at practice? You know, our starting star running back, when I was head coach, decided he's going to walk off campus one day. Just walk on down to Coleman Street. He didn't play in that game.
Consequence.
Yeah.
And when they came to me, no, nothing to talk about. They asked me about it, no. Didn't
You know the rules?
Didn't feed into it. Didn't make a big thing in the paper about it. Didn't embarrass him. But yo, he didn't play. A down. And that's just because he's got to understand. Yeah. And not only that, but yo, you the dude. You're a great player for us. But you can't, because you know what?
You're above the program, basically.
And not only that, but then if I let you play, what's every teacher in that school saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's the administrator saying? Oh, yeah, you know, he let his kid play that. No.
And also, it's not setting them up for life anyways. You're not going to be able to just go out there and do what you want just because you're good at football. And honestly, you're going to have more of a target on your back because you're good at football. And there's going to be people that want to bring you down just because you're good. You're good. You're at the level that a lot of people want to be at. So people try to take shots and they'll find any way to try to take you off your high horse. So you got to always make sure that you're secure and you do what you got to do. And that's one thing that you've always preached, Coach. And it was just, if you're going to get locked up, you're going to do something to get locked up. If you do something to get locked up and you get locked up, then you get locked up.
And again, I know that we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a sin-cursed world. So there are going to be some times where innocent people get jammed up. Mm-hmm. I understand that because I know people are going to watch this and go, oh, easy for you to say, I got a cousin. You know, I understand that. But for the most part, I know this. If I had a guy on probation, I had to write a warrant for his arrest. That warrant goes to my supervisor. He reviews it, sends it back, what corrections he wants me to make. Okay, I make those corrections. I show it to him again. Okay, take it over to the prosecutor. Prosecutor looks at the warrant. Oh, I take this out, put this in. Okay, comes back. I got to do that. Get to my supervisor. Take it back to the prosecutor. Now get it back. Take it to the judge. But, bro, it doesn't just a warrant usually don't just fall on you, you know. And if it does illegally, then a lot of people are in on this garbage.
Yeah.
You know, and there have been people that have had these things happen to them. But I only bring that up because, again, reaping and sowing. Reaping and sowing. And, you know, when things sometimes don't go my way, I'm like, okay, rather than blame the world, you know, what did I have to do with this? And I might have nothing to do with this. Look at Job. Job was a righteous man in the eyes of the Lord, but still he went through a lot of bad stuff. But in the end, he got it all back doubled. People don't know that part of the story. Yeah. They don't know that part of the story, you know? And so, and I just, man, I'm telling you, we have to do something for our kids. Otherwise, we are breeding independence, waiting for somebody to do something for them. You know, just little things, just thinking outside the box. Like, oh, man, I got to do this. Oh, maybe I got to pay this bill first before I pay that bill. Mm-hmm. You know, little things like I can't do anything. I can't pay none of the bills. No, okay, you pay this one first. You get paid in 2 weeks, pay that one later. Yeah, you know, don't just throw your hands.
Extension.
Yeah.
Don't just go spend it all because you know you can't.
Right.
You're not supposed to be able to pay both bills at once. Make sure one get paid and then the other one. No, definitely, I completely understand that.
Just all
right,
hanging in.
No,
and you know what? And that was the thing. I'll never forget this. After the NFA game that I was talking about when I was coaching, when we came back and won 24-22, I told them, I said, guys, this is a perfect example. This is why I love football, because football gives you life lessons in 4 quarters. 4 quarters. We were down and out first half. Third quarter, we come out, looks like it's going to get worse. And we end up winning that game, and everybody was on the highest high they could be. And I said to them, it's been a time where you can't pay your bills because this is New London. And a matter of fact, I said that to you guys. We played Greenwich, and Greenwich was supposed to meet us halfway. Right? They're supposed to meet us halfway. Next thing you know, well, we got to play here. Next thing, before you know, Greenwich had the nerve to say, we don't go over the bridge. Bro, they flew to Florida the year before that. But they can't come over the bridge in Connecticut. So we're like on fire. And I'm sitting here, and then we hit the traffic, the whole bit. So we get to Greenwich. I don't know what snapped. I told you, somebody get a little snaps. I lost my mind. I came off the bus yelling, screaming, you can't go over the bridge. I'm like losing my mind, right? We come out there, we're playing. They got 2 platoons. Our guys are cramping up. Why you never give up? I think you recovered the fumble on the 1-yard line against them, or did you force the fumble?
No,
because they were down on the 1. Oh, no, you ran the guy down, tackled him. Mm-hmm. Khalid could have let him go in. He had a long run. Just let him score. No. Tackle him at the 1-yard line. Next play, we get a fumble. We recover. We win the game. But this is what I'm talking about, just fighting and fighting. So at halftime, I said, those guys have never had to worry about paying a bill in their life. but we got to worry about paying our bills. Because, I said, they don't know what we. I said, we had to drive down here because they can't go over the bridge. Bro, I didn't realize I hit some nerves. Cats was crying.
No.
I remember one dude came up to me. I'm going to say no names. He's like, yo, Coach, my mom ain't able to pay that bill last week. We went out there and beat these dudes. And it was like the greatest thing in the world. People from that area were like, yo, good for you dudes. Good for you guys. Because you came down here and you did it. Because Greenwich thought that, we just come on down. They got to come to us. So now the folks from Greenwich are going to be mad at me, but that's okay. I ain't telling no lies. But, again, that's it. The scrapping. And like I said, after the NFA game, having that cheerleader standing here crying when I'm talking to the team, like, yo, this is us. This is not just a football team. That's why when New London football does well, the whole school year is good. Mm-hmm. When you can put up on that thing, we're number one.
What your AD say at Phoebus? What your AD say? That's exactly what your AD said at Phoebus. When the football when the football team's doing well, the school year goes smooth.
Yeah. It's just something about it. It's something about it. Everybody feeling good, feeling, got a little extra pep in their step, walk around and so.
Something to be proud of.
Yeah. And the thing is.
But also, when the football team's not doing well, please do not take that time to bash the football team, especially when we have like a mass exodus of New London. There's a lot of people that left. And again, there's no knock to the people that left. I got love for everybody. But it's not the fault of the people who are young and trying to step up for the team that we lost like a lot of really good players. Like NFA has Bless, Makai, Tristan, KK left as well. Like there was players that were supposed to be key for us this year and that are balling at these other places, that are at other places. So again, I'm happy for everybody that's in their right places, but this is not the time to be like, well, New London's ass. It's just like, no, you got to understand the situation and what happened. New London's usually has their down years when there's a group of people that leave New London from that team, usually. But trust me, you guys take your time to be able to kick us while we down and stuff, but we be all right.
The thing too is, we can't be soft. And what I mean by that, when we soft is like, you got to be coached hard.
You have to be.
And people don't want their kids coached hard. Kids don't want to be coached hard. So I'll just go somewhere else. Man, the dude told me, and now it's like free agency. Mm-hmm. Prep school, this school, go here. They know the rules, do this, do that, change it. And again, like Khalid said, you do what you want to do. That's your life. But back to what you said earlier, I paid my taxes in New London. My kids go to New London schools. My kids are going to get the education. My kids are going to play sports here. You know what? I don't know. I guess there's a saying they say in New London, like, he's a New London guy. People say that about Tommy Major. Mm-hmm. He's a New London guy. Everybody knows that. I would hope that they can say Romans are a New London family. Like, they understand, like, that's what we do. We're green gold. Mm-hmm. That's how we are, up, down. And again, Major was, all state in football and basketball. Hunter was just in football. Spencer played in 3 state championships. Her teams went 101-8 in 4 years. 101-8 is nasty. But they won 1 state championship out of the 3 that they played in. So it hurt when you lost. Mm-hmm. But you know what? But you know what? They're scrapping, diving. She took 23 charges her senior year. I remember her coach said, just stop taking them. This one girl we were playing in the semifinals, he goes, she's out. She's a monster. Don't take a charge. My daughter's coming home, her elbow's swollen. But she doesn't know any other way. Be that New London. Not saying be that because it's my daughter, but just have that mentality.
Honestly.
Just, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to do it. Because you will come out the backside. Mm-hmm. Win, lose, or draw, you're going to come out the backside. And when my mom was sick and dying with cancer, that was a terrible time in my life. But I'll never forget, she said to me, you've been good to me. I didn't bail. I'm an only child. I was there, did what I had to do, and it wasn't fun. But you know what? You do what you got to do. I didn't say, oh, I need a mental health day. I can't do this. No, you do what you got to do. And you know what? I have no regrets for doing it.
No, I hear that.
Kudos to you, Coach.
No, it definitely is, man.
Kudos to you, Coach.
We appreciate every single last thing that you talked about, Coach. The NFA game, sharing the stories with your family, about your family, and everything that you shared with us today. Thank you. Like, honestly, I'm overwhelmed with, like, honestly, all the stuff that you talked about because, man, it's been a great intellectual talk for the community that the community needs, because we both work at New London High School right now, and we see the gap that needs to be filled, and it's a large gap. But we do what we can to try to make sure, like, we talk to students. And I get this one thing, Dom's going to be coming on here as well. I've talked to him like a month ago about this. But each one teach one. That's one thing that he's always told me, and it helps me be able to move forward and be able to help kids in our community and be able to help them without needing anything in return, because they deserve it just as much as I deserved having good parents. So I feel like they deserve to have somebody that loves them and somebody there for them as well. And I know that's why you do it, Coach. You make sure people are loved, and that's
you know what? And I know people don't understand it because, like I said, I can be negative in what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about it because I'm frustrated. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about it because, like, in the end, I had a captive audience. You want to play? This is what you deal with. And they dealt with it. Mm-hmm. And they dealt with it. And look who they are as men. They, like I said, we all make mistakes. We all do. But these guys, Pablo Craig, Paul, I mean, other than wearing that crazy yellow stripe, and black stripe.
Yeah, the bumblebee.
Yeah, he had that bumblebee. But other than that, when he made All-State, it was like my kid made All-State. It was just great. It was like, man, because Pablo went out there and did what he had to do and made All-State. And it was like, when he told me he made All-State, man, it was like my kid made it.
That was an important year for me, too. I was so happy that Paul made All-State. And that was a year that it was like possible for me to go All-State because of like shutting down and stuff. But him having those 2 picks, it just made you want other people to want it. And that's what I want for these younger guys too that are here now. You're not missing out on nothing by other guys getting accolades, especially not other guys that are supposed to be your big brothers like that. Like, Paul's my big brother. He's a couple years older than me, a grade older than me, and he always helped me, especially like at corner and stuff. And he knew I was a little bit taller and like could play the position a little bit easier because of my length. So he always helped me where he knew like he was great at it. So yeah, just seeing him being able to go All-State, it's a beautiful thing. And it was great for me to see him go All-State. I had no animosity towards him for going All-State, even though I could have. I was just happy that he did.
And here's the crazy part. This is what New London can instill in players if they allow it to happen to themselves. Paul Craig goes to college, and he has learned the way we do things so much. He's calling me up, pissed off at his college teammates for not going hard, not playing hard. Coach, what am I going to do with these guys? And guess what? Paul Craig ended up being a captain.
As a freshman.
Out there at Nichols, right? Nichols.
Yep,
ended up being a captain because Paul Craig learned one way of doing things, and he kept doing it that way. And Khalid, like you said about people coming and going and leaving schools, what have you, people have no idea. But I be watching this stuff. Khalid's senior year, 7 kids from his class made All-State. 4 of them were still at New London, and 3 of them were at different schools. 7 kids from that class made All-State.
I heard there was some dogs. I didn't get to watch it.
So,
but I definitely
so we had you, Kyle, Vogans,
and Jig,
and then Pointkowski,
Rich,
Vitali,
Nick,
and Casey. Mm-hmm. So we had 7 dudes that should have been together. So I know people are going to tell you, and I can't tell you which way to do business. All I can do is I know what I did. But as far as loving New London, There's strength in numbers. I understand, like, hey, there's only 5 spots on the basketball team and we got 8 great players. I know nobody wants to not be playing, but I ain't gonna lie to you, some of these schools the kids are going to, I'm like, what? Those are sports schools now? And I don't want to say no names and insult no schools, but I'm like, what? That's where people are going to play sports? Wow, So, man, but they see it. They see we're ripe for the picking, especially when you're down a little bit, and people will want to do it. But the funny part is they did it in 1983. There were 7 kids that should have started for our varsity team that were at different schools or didn't play, and we still won the state championship. Because when New London is loaded, New London is loaded.
Yeah, you ain't lying. But honestly, that was New London last year, especially the basketball team for New London last year. You had a bunch of kids that came home, and then you mixed them with the kids that were already here that ended up starting to go to New London, like Savon, Boo Boo. But then you mixed them with a whole bunch of kids that like were transferring out, going into other places, but ended up coming home. Their parents brought them home, and they made it to the state championship in their first year as a team. Their first year, like it was Dave's second year coaching, but their first year as a collective team and everybody being together, they didn't play together prior to that. When they were in youth, they did, but besides that, they had a pretty much a brand new team that didn't play together in high school prior to that.
And it's probably me. I'm definitely biased, but the green and gold is just beautiful. I can go to a little.
I agree with that.
I can go to a little league game.
I agree with that.
And watch the kids.
Not from New London, though.
You got it too?
He's a Packers fan.
Okay.
Packers fan.
I'm saying, but I can go to a little league baseball all-star game, and when they're announcing the kids' names, they come out in the lines and they're wearing that green and gold. It's just beautiful, man. It's like it's just everything about it. I'm just like, man. So I love it. I love to see kids in it. I love the fact that my kids were in it.
That's why I tell Khalid all the time too. As far as like, if you never been to New London, it's different. And I'm from Hampton. Yep. I went, and I'm not from Hampton. I'm from Waterbury. Don't have that there. Hampton, closest. I mean, it's very powerful in what we do as far as like on the high school level, but below that is not there. But y'all from Pee Wee on up is that. It's from Pee Wee on up is that. So it's
trying to bring it back.
Yeah, and there's always that I don't know. It's like y'all always rep New London. That's all I can say. It's always
we
New.
It's no one reps it harder than Tommy Major.
Yo.
Tommy Major can go to Australia. He gonna make sure he walks around with a New London sweatshirt, and then be like, "You from New London? Oh, how'd you know?" Yeah, that's Coach. That's him.
I don't know. Khalid is hard to beat out when I talk to Khalid.
Oh yeah, you know me.
Because I'm directly, we family, so it's just like but it's just it runs deep. You can see it runs deep, and I respect it from the outsider looking in because I still consider myself outsider, but outside looking in, it's you. I wish I grew up in that atmosphere. I didn't grow up in the atmosphere in Hampton and in Waterbury. Say we all had our separate corners of the
town.
city. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
we got to definitely make sure we don't let it slip.
Yeah.
Don't let it slip.
That's a big thing. Oh man! All right, so again, thank you, Coach. We're gonna talk about some.
Thank you, man.
I really appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
And we still talk about some football for the day if you want to stay for a couple minutes. You gonna head out?
Mrs. Roman's waiting on me.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Yo, do what you gotta do,
That's
Coach.
Do what you gotta do, Coach. Nice to have you, man.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate it.
I love you, baby.
No, I love you, Coach. I definitely
Cool.
talk to you. So I see you at school.
Nice to meet you, Coach.
We gotta definitely have you back again, Coach.